So we're nearing the end of our series on Acts, and we are now at the point in within the book that Paul is on his way to Rome when the shipwreck happens. This might seem like a little weird of a story to kind of sit down and sort of talk about. There doesn't seem to be much that's kind of being dealt with sort of spiritually here, but I think it's a good. I think it has a very good lesson for us. So obviously, Paul was didn't set out with kind of this goal of being arrested. He was okay with it, and he had a plan for it. And he believed that God had a plan for it. And he believed that plan was that he would be taken in chains to Rome, and he'd be able to preach and outreach there. Preach in front of the emperor, those types of things. So he was looking at a way to take this kind of negative moment that happened in his life and turn it into a positive. And then he gets shipwrecked. Uh, and I think this is a kind of a beautiful illustration of how sometimes in our lives a bad thing will happen, but we're able to kind of get that sort of a positive kind of take on it, and then something worse happens on top of it, and it can kind of feel like things are just sort of piling on, and you can wonder if you're ever really going to make it through. And this story to me is a great illustration that these individuals in the past, these people that we admire and look up to, they have experienced a lot of the same things, and there are some real lessons that we can learn here from this. Paul never seems to really be shaken by any of this. He seems to kind of accept that this is clearly still a part of that plan that God has to get him to Rome, that this is part of the road, part of the way to Rome for him. It might not be the path that he thought he was going to be taking, but it's still taking him there to his destination. And I think that that is something we ourselves should be cognizant of, that sometimes when we see a destination out in front of us, whatever that destination may be, sometimes we will expect the road is going to go one way there, and it veers off in a way that we never would have expected. And we have to deal with a situation we never thought we were going to deal with. But as we read further in this sort of story, we know that this actually ends up being a great ministry from Paul to these centurions, to these soldiers around him. He has an experience on this island that is miraculous, where he's bitten by a snake, and they swear it is a poisonous snake, and he does not die. So he has kind of this moment where he is able to minister to these individuals, and he's able to kind of show his faith and show them something that they themselves saw as being miraculous. So whether it is or wasn't, can be debated, but that kind of takes away the point here of this story, I think, having that debate, which is that Paul used this opportunity to really reach out to these people. And also just by being a compliant prisoner in this case, which I know is a little weird to kind of say, and by especially given Paul's circumstance where he's imprisoned for his faith, being compliant kind of seems like it maybe not the best idea there, but in doing so, Paul really did seem to have an impact on these soldiers and on those around him. They kind of came to sort of at the end of all of this really sort of respect him and revere him in some sort of way, which allowed him to kind of, minister to them in that way. So in our own lives, we should understand that the route is not always going to be the one that we expect to take, that we, like Paul, might end up being shipwrecked. But our attitude towards that and the way that we should approach it is seeing it still as part of God's plan, because it clearly is, and having faith that He's still going to get us to that end point, to that destination He's put in our mind, and that our job in that situation is to just do the best we can and do the best work that we can for God in that moment. Amen. And now I'd like to invite you all to join me for our last worship song today.